Very good. All right. Well, I welcome your questions. I'm gonna try to go through as many of these do's and don'ts as I can. But if you have a question, stop me and let me know, because otherwise I could talk for 45 minutes without taking a breath. So, all right. So let's see where we are. Don't be so quick to jump just because they're willing and ready to do it. In fact, many times, the people who are the most urgent, they're that way because they're getting kicked out of their last place. Don't fall for it. See this little guy right here? He's adorable, right? And sometimes the animals that people bring are adorable. They're great. Not going to harm the home. But sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's a breed of animal, like, let's say, a pit bull, or 5 of them. And your insurance gets queasy. And your insurance says, I'm sorry, you can't have 5 pit bulls on your property. Your insurance is invalidated. I don't cover that, right? That puts you in a tight spot. So make sure you have the conversation about animals before you hand over the keys. And you got to talk about animals and not pets. Because guess what's not an animal? I mean, guess what's not a pet? An emotional support animal. And federal law protects a tenant and their right to have an emotional support animal with them. And you can't charge them extra for it. And you can't deny them strictly on the basis that they have an emotional support animal. That violates the Americans with Disabilities Act. But if you don't find out about this animal until 3 months into the lease, you can't make an informed decision about whether or not this is the most qualified applicant, right? So what's the test? If the disability that's being claimed by the tenant is open and obvious, there's no question. It's easy, right? They're blind, they're in a wheelchair. That's easy, right? And if the service animal facilitates some very obvious function for their disability, you really don't even have to ask. It's when you can't see it that it becomes a problem. They claim they have epilepsy, right? I have seizures, and this dog warns me of those seizures. Okay, that's a thing. That happens. But if they can't supply a single medical documentation confirming their epilepsy, and they can't supply a single document confirming that that dog does what they say it does, they don't qualify. That's not enough. They don't meet the standard. So make sure you're asking questions about animals. If the applicant does not otherwise meet your criteria, and you should have one criteria for all applicants, if that applicant doesn't meet that criteria, you can rightfully deny them. But if they come and they do meet your criteria, and they have a legitimate emotional support animal or a legitimate service animal, you cannot deny them on that basis, and you can't charge them for it. Landlords, I want to talk to you about an exciting project that will be coming out in the month of September. I'm super excited about it. If you're interested in knowing more, there's a printed link here on the screen that you can type in, or check out the description of this video and you'll see a link that you can click to learn more about Landlording Pro. Leases. Sometimes we let the lease end and we don't do anything about it. It goes month to month and we're okay with that. But the truth is, if you got a good tenant, lock them in for another 12. Don't let it just go month to month, right? If you got a bad tenant, get rid of them. Send them a notice of termination. Don't keep them indefinitely because they keep paying the rent, or because they stick around. Or they tell you, man, I've been looking, I can't find anything. They're never gonna find anything. Bad tenants have a hard time finding a new place. That's just the way of it. Yeah. Send them a notice of termination, get rid of them. Let's talk about repair requests. You want to be diligent to your repair requests. If they call and they say, hey, I got this problem. Here's the big one in the summer. AC went out. Now you win at month 3 and you win at month 9, and the AC filter's being changed, you know that's not a problem. You checked it outside, the compressor's good. It's only 3 years old, but something happened. Now you tell me what judge is going to be okay if you wait 8 days before you go out to the house and take a look at it, nobody's going to say that's diligence. You got to show your tenant, I'm on it. Even if it's just a phone call, you say, look, I'm calling my guy. He's going to be there as soon as possible. Are you available tomorrow? He'll be there. If you can prove that you acted with diligence, every court's going to be on your side. Even if it takes 8 days to fix it. Right? As long as you were acting reasonably, you're good. But the moment they can prove you sat back and were like, I don't got time for that. Yeah, or my AC's working just fine. I'll get around to it when I can. Unfortunately, that happens with some landlords and they get themselves in trouble. I've got horror stories about this very, very thing. And it's very avoidable. Just act with diligence. That's all the law requires. Landlords, as always, we welcome you to follow us on our Instagram page. If you're not a member yet, join us on Facebook. And if you enjoy what you see here, give us a thumbs up. Click that like button. We enjoy that very much. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Now, the flip side of that is don't just repair everything because they ask you to, right? Sometimes they're like, man, I really don't like the way this room looks. Or the cabinets, they're old. I don't like them. Well, they've been there for 2 months. And when they came in, the cabinets were pretty much like that.
Right.
And there's an as-is provision in the lease anyway. You took it, having inspected and saying, it's good. You didn't even put it on the condition and inventory form. So, no, I'm not going to change the cabinets. They're fine. They function like cabinets. And they don't materially affect the health and safety of an ordinary tenant. You're fine. That's a cosmetic issue, not something I have to address. Right? But there are some landlords who feel like I got to do everything, otherwise they're going to sue me, or they're going to do this, or they're going to withhold rent. Let me tell you, there's zero in the law that says they can withhold rent from you for a cosmetic repair. In fact, even a necessary repair, the only way they can withhold the rent is if they send you 2 written notices and they cover the cost of the repair and they show you proof that they did that. That's the only way they can withhold rent. But so many times they're like, no, you don't come over here and do it, I'm not paying you rent next month. They don't pay rent, notice to vacate, you're out. Because there's no defense to non-payment. Yep.
What about the lights in the dining room? I had some tenants that are like, oh, they're a little too low. Is that like a safety?
Only if they're low because there's some kind of electrical outage or some electrical problem. If they just don't like the wattage from the bulb, change the bulb. Or
no, low, like hanging low.
Oh, hanging low.
No.
Oh, I thought like they weren't bright enough.
I don't know. The guy was like 6.5 foot tall. And
maybe that could be a safety issue. It's also an easy fix if you can just raise it a little bit.
Yeah.
So sometimes it may not, but depending on how low it is, and they got little kids running through there.
No, they didn't. But
it could be an issue. So
because I'm like they put the table in the middle of the light. I'm like, how is he hitting his head? We went and we raised it. I was like, okay.
Sometimes you're going to do things that are good customer service.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just belly aching.
Yeah.
But
it was those kind of people that they were like, hey, one of the lights in the bedroom went out. I'm like, switch it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go there to switch a light bulb,
Yeah. Now sometimes they're the ones that are like 10 feet up.
Yeah.
And you got to use a tool.
No, it was regular ceiling.
Yeah. Diligence when it's necessary. It's a customer service call otherwise.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Don't be afraid to send notices to your tenants. If they are in default, I advocate what I call the 7-day rule. If you haven't gotten rent in 7 days, you better be sending something to that tenant. Send them a notice to vacate. If they're in violation, send them a notice of default. Don't let them go more than 7 days. If they're messing up, let them know in writing. Guys, thanks so much for coming by. I hope you learned a little something. Please take some information from the table.